super tough. This wax would not budge in this ear canal. This was a real tough case to do. This is actually my patient, which is why I know this was a really tough case to do. Hi everybody, my name is Reece Bradman, one of the audiologists here at Audiology Associates. Got the introduction out of the way. So what we've got here is a relatively narrow canal and a very soft type of wax. Okay, and this is the real kind of soft, sticky stuff with a little bit of clay wax mixed in. Now, if you're new to the channel, we kind of I try and describe most wax consistencies using foodstuffs and stuff like that. With a clay type wax, though, I'm going to go off piste a little bit. So what we've got here is almost like plasticine. That's how I want you to think of this. And then the soft and stickier wax is almost like, you know, when you mix butter and sugar together, you cream butter and sugar. It's kind of that consistency. So you've got a mixture of both there, okay? And what I'm doing here is trying to pull this away from the ear canal, trying to detach the sides, and by detaching the sides, it's going to make this plug a lot easier to get out. But as you can see, I am really having to work the sides of this canal because it just does not want to come away very easily. Luckily, we're getting a little bit of a cleaner kind of pull now to the one side, so we can see the skin underneath. There's not much wax being left on the skin when we detach it. The other thing that makes this a little bit more difficult is we've got a really pronounced anterior recess. Now, I'll explain what that means as well, just in case you're new to the channel. So an anterior recess is when you get closer to the eardrum, the bony portion of the ear canal tends to jut out. What's the best way of showing you this? Probably imagine this is the eardrum. It kind of juts out like this. So you end up with almost like a valley then, just in front of the eardrum. And that's what this particular patient's got. And that's what makes this difficult to do, and I'll show you that in a second. Olive oil gone in just to help to maneuver and kind of free up this wax a little bit, get this kind of stickier wax off the canal wall. And I'm moving it and I'm thinking, oh, you know, it's looking a lot more mobile. We're getting there with this. It's starting to pull away. And then every time I get it a little bit more mobile, I try and pull it, and it feels like something's anchoring this plug. I mean, look at it, we're giving this a really good wiggle there. And it really feels like something's anchored this plug in place. And I'm struggling to find where this is sticking. I can see the bottom starting to free up. I can see this almost layer of dry skin, that kind of smoother sheen you can see at the bottom of the wax there. That's coming away. So that means it's peeled away from the canal wall really well. But look at this. So what I'm pulling here, and I just pull that layer that we were just talking about, that skin layer, just away from the plug, but left the plug in place. So this bit is quite tough. You can see that little bit of blurring to the screen there. That's some olive oil that's stuck to those little hairs on the outer part of the ear canal. As the camera passes, sometimes they just pass over the lens and it just smears the lens a little bit. But luckily it's cleared itself. So I'm trying to pull top and bottom. So I'm trying to almost wiggle the wax like this, wiggling it back and forth to try and free it up from that deeper recess there. There we go, look at this come in. And because it's got this slightly softer consistency, where I'm trying to now roll the wax, what's happening is it's just sort of moving the front back and forth. Whereas really what you want to do is roll it end over end to get it down the canal. If it was a slightly harder wax, you could do that really easily. But because it's this softer consistency, it kind of just moves the front portion of the wax. It doesn't get the whole thing out. So a little bit more of a wiggle. At this point, I am thinking, right, I've used oil, you know, I've tried it. It's a bit deep for a manual tool. I could try a manual tool here, but I think it's going to be so close to the eardrum, it's going to be difficult to get that out. There you go. Guys, just to let you know as well, the lovely Mr. Taylor Green is now officially married. That happened actually this week. Me and Leah went along to the, or me and Mrs. B, I should say, went along to the wedding. Oh, it was lovely as well. I can't say a lot, guys, because obviously the bride and groom have to put their posts on social media and stuff, and I've got to ask Taylor's permission before we can share anything. And he's at the moment off because he's on honeymoon. So when he's back, I will promise I will try and give you an update as soon as we can. But it was phenomenal, absolutely brilliant, absolutely lovely wedding. Yeah, really just a fab day, and his family are lovely as well. And Taylor Green has some awesome dance moves. I'm telling you, that man can move. Maybe not always in the right direction, but he can move. So I'll let him fill you in that next time you see him. So we're down to this last bit of the plug, and you can see I've broken some of the edge off it. But when we talk about the anterior recess, you can really see now why it's stuck right down next to the eardrum there. Is this going to come away? Is it going to lift? I don't think it is. It's really, I've flooded, I mean, there's a lot of oil in here. I've literally flooded this with olive oil. And let's see, it's coming. It really is. Now, it's, like I said earlier, it's a bit too deep to use a manual tool, all right? And there's not a lot of space in there either. So this wax plug is actually right down, you can see the eardrum beyond now, so it's right down on top of the eardrum. So if I try and get most of the tools we use, you have to get behind the plug for even the tool to be effective. So I'd have to literally go over the top of the plug, which is going to get very, very close to the eardrum. And I've got this bigger chunk lifting now, but I know this hasn't pulled the last section. I could see it just sheared this front plug off. And now we've got, which is worst case scenario for us really, we've got this really deep, super sticky, wedged into the recess part of the wax. And this is what made this super tough to do. And you can see I'm over the top of the recess. Now why this is hard to do is now we're working at an angle down into the recess. In order for the suction tube to work, you've got to get the tube square onto the wax, which means if the wax is lying like this, you've got to get the tube like that. Now, this edge here, the wax is pressed against the eardrum, so you've got to get it on enough to be able to pull the wax, but not enough to press against the eardrum. And also, you've got the anterior recess at the bottom, so now you can't press against the anterior recess either, which means that getting the tube down into this particular spot is really tough without causing damage to the eardrum or causing issues with the patient, giving discomfort when you're pressing on that anterior recess there. So I'm really eyeing this up, okay, and I can see this section at the bottom. I've flooded it with oil again, because sometimes just having a little bit of oil in it just helps to sort of get rid of the suction. But I knew that I was going to have to use some irrigation, okay? And that's what I've done there. I thought, well, if I irrigate it, it's all going to come out that space. I irrigated it for about a minute and nothing came away. It just didn't budge. That's how firmly attached in here this is. So I've switched down now to a fine end. This is why it looks a little bit more misty in here, is because we've got the humidity from the water we've just put in there. That's now in the canal. And I'm just using the fine end. And every time I think I've got a grip on it, it just pulls a small part out. So it did get some away, in fairness, but it didn't get a hell of a lot, and certainly not this deeper section here. And you can see I'm really, now it's getting smaller and smaller. It's getting much, much harder to get that grip on. And wiggle from side to side because I'm trying to unstick it from the base. And we are getting there. It's starting to come away. Now what I do at one point here is I actually angle the tube. So what I do, I bend the tube, all right? Because when it gets smaller, you lose the leading edge. You actually have to put a little bit of a bend, only slightly. You don't want to bend it too much because you'll block the suction flow, but you just bend it ever so slightly. And what that does, you know, I said earlier, we have to kind of go at an angle. Try to do that with a straight tube is really, really hard. So if you bend the tube slightly, it means you can kind of go in like this and then drop it down and on top of that last little bit of wax. So I've put more oil in now just to get this last bit, just to pull this last section out, and you should see it start to lift. There you go. It's not going to be dramatic. It's just going to be a little bit, but you can see it. There you go. There we are. Now we're starting to get a little bit of a lift to this, and we're going from right to left, and we're trying to lift it out of that recess. There we go. That's looking a lot better. Looking a lot better on that side. And now we've got the other ear canal to do as well. Guys, if you are enjoying the video so far, don't forget you can hit that like, subscribe to the channel. That'd be absolutely fantastic. It does make a huge difference to the channel because it pushes out to more people, tells more people it's a video worth watching. So if you don't mind liking for me and you wouldn't mind subscribing if you enjoy it, that'd be absolutely fantastic. There's also another option as well. If you want to see more videos every single week, there are membership options there as well, which you can take a look at, and that will give you even more videos every single week. If you go for the Waxaholic membership, you will also get lives. We're going to try and do these once a month month moving forwards now. So you're going to get member only lives where you can actually ask me in real time any questions you want about ears, hearing, anything really. It's like an anything goes thing. So you can also do that as well if you want to. So we're just lifting this last kind of bit of the front section here, just peeling that away. So it's very similar setup to the last ear canal. I don't think there's as much in the anterior recess in this one. This is more just kind of more front loaded. And you can see that the ear canal, rather than be this sort of round shape, is this more sort of elongated oval shape. And it's almost sort of twisted. You can see it's kind of rocking onto its side there, which makes it a little bit more difficult with the movement you can make with the suction tubes, but it's coming away fantastically well so far, touch wood. So a bit of oil in here just to help it along. And I'm doing this because I can see we've got this layer of dry skin that we lifted on the bottom right corner, and it's going to help to detach that because I haven't got a lot of room to kind of move everything from the canal wall. So for that you need to do a really nice peel, and to peel the skin away. If you imagine if you're working inside a tube, to peel it away you're restricted, your tube's going to hit the top of the canal wall, so you need to kind of free it up a little bit, and that's what the oil tends to do. So I'm going up and down a minute, just working the oil underneath this plug. So we're going from the top and lifting again back to the bottom. There we go. The front section's come away. That's going to free us up just a little bit of space, make it a little bit easier to get to the next bit. And let's lift off this one. There you go. And again, and again. There you go. It's really starting to peel now. And now we can see all the edge of the plug. Okay, so we know that the bottom end, there's nothing attached to the canal wall on the bottom end. This is quite deep though, it's right against the eardrum. So the movement you make here is you lift and pull, right? So you kind of go up and back, because if you keep lifting, when it's this close to the eardrum, you're just going to compress it against the eardrum, which is going to cause more issues for you later on. But if you lift and pull backwards, it kind of lifts it and draws it down. So you're always trying to almost scoop the bottom end out so you can bring it out of the canal that way. But it looks like this has gone super deep again. There you go, just trying to get this edge. It really doesn't want to wiggle, does it, this one? Oh my word. It's coming, but look how firmly attached there. So that I would say this wax has been in here a little while, all right? It doesn't, first of all, wax doesn't form this deep in the canal, all right? It can back up this deep. So if you've got a big blockage at the front end, it kind of backs up all the way into the system. But most of the time, if you've got wax and it's all the way down here, it's because it's been pushed in there with cotton bud, Q-tip. It's been kind of been manually forced back. And what happens then is when we push it back, you're compressing the wax together. So it's what they call compacting the wax. And then it's also dry because it's moved to the outer part of the ear canal. That's where it should pick up a little bit of oil that we secrete there to help it fall out of the ear. But when you're pushing it back in all the time, it's not picking the oil up. So it's causing the wax to dry, become far more sticky, and cause more issues, which is what's happened here. Nice, big, chunky plug there, guys. Let's have a little look. Oh my goodness, the last little bit. I think I'm probably going to do a bit of irrigation on this, I would say. Oh, is it going to move? I can't quite remember the second. I remember the first ear. Oh, this is actually coming away really well. Look at that. Where we're getting that bit of a wiggle now. You can see it all lifting. Look how much was hiding in the recess. That is a big chunk of wax to be sandwiched between the canal wall and the eardrum there. Yeah, bit of irrigation just to tidy up, but look at the difference the irrigation made on that side. So we have 5.5 centimeters, and that's 2.25 inches there, guys. Well, thank you very much for watching the video. If you do like the video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you want to, check out the memberships as well. But as always, guys, until the next video, take care of yourselves, take care of your ears, and take care of one another. And I'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody.